Hello, and welcome to the Rough Edges podcast with Sarah I. Fox. In this podcast, I will guide you through my faith and mental health journey to dispel the stigma surrounding mental illness and to create an empowering resource for those who wish to discover more about these topics. I pray that this podcast will not only bless you, but that it will bring growth and healing to our communities. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Rough Edges. I am so excited to be doing this season all about men's mental health, and I am also excited to welcome my guest, a returning guest, Mr. Andrew Ramirez. Andrew Ramirez is a certified high school counselor. He graduated from the University of Miami and Rutgers University. He's a proud hubby and daddy of two. He was also diagnosed with bipolar 1 with psychotic tendencies, PTSD, and OCD. Welcome, Andrew.
Hey, thank you for having me, Sarah.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. And before we dive into our topics for today, what are three things that you can't live without and why?
Three things, without a doubt, my immediate family, without a doubt, two kids, wife, all that, and then two is my career. My career is my base, my school and my students there. Probably the third thing that's like individually probably most important to me. My core is my routine. It's super important for me. It's my base. I don't know what I would do without a solid routine in my life. Always working on it.
Yes, absolutely. And I just love like the routine part of it because I'm also the same way. Like, I need that routine, especially with like dealing with bipolar disorder and everything like that. Like, a routine is very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm covering men's mental health this season, and I'm just so excited to be able to dive into this topic with you.
Definitely.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your mental health journey?
So I'll just fast forward to the beginning of when I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed back in September of 2016. My first hospitalization, a first full blown manic episode. I describe it to my students as you finally get to where you want to be in life. You accomplish all these things, these big things, my 2 degrees, starting my career, and life just hits you right smack in the face so hard. And my life went crumbling down. It's not about getting the diagnosis, but just everything afterwards. My life changed completely, and it was a lot. It was a lot for a few years. Managing and then adding more diagnoses onto it, and then other hospitalizations. It was a lot. And I'll always use that terminology. I don't know how else to say it. It was a lot, and just trying to get out of that depressive state for all those years, and it's always an adjustment.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about your journey in particular is that you decided to inspire hope in others and to give them mental health education as well. And so I just wanted to know what inspired you to become a mental health advocate and to give that education to people.
No, I think for me back, I don't know what year it was, but when I decided to start my page on Instagram, bipolar real talk, I felt I was relieved that there was people just like me. But then I thought to myself, well, if there's others like me, there's gotta be times 20 like me. Who knows, times 100 like me that aren't, speaking out. And it's not that everybody needs to speak out. It's the idea that, well, I know I can, and I know I could make a difference. I already make a difference in my career, with students, when I'm comfortable enough, and it took a few years. Why can't I do that as well in a different way?
Right. No, I definitely agree. And I also love that you said not everybody needs to speak out because sometimes people think like when you go through things like this, you have to be that advocate and that, poster child, quote unquote, if you will,
That's
for
true.
mental health. But I just love that you're more focused on inspiring others to be more informed. And I appreciate that through your page as well.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. So I wanted to talk more about the overarching themes of men's mental health
Okay.
and just like the different barriers that can get in the way of men actually seeking help for their mental health. So, what are some barriers do you think that get in the way of men seeking help for their mental health?
I think the first one that comes to my mind, this idea that, if men don't talk, if men don't speak, then that means they're tough. And for me, I'll be lying and say I didn't grow up that with that notion, and then not necessarily so much through with family. We were big, you got to talk and got to speak, and therapy was in the family realm as well. But just this idea that oh man, you gotta toughen it up. You gotta man up. Like I get that to a certain degree, but when it comes to mental health, I mean, how can I sit here and be so strong for my family and be there for my wife, be there for my kids if I'm not strong within me and I don't seek help? I think there's a big contradiction there.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I love that you brought up the notion of like you just gotta be tough and to man up because that's just such a huge stigma that keeps a lot of men in suppression and
Hmm.
just like really like burying all those emotions just for the sake of looking tough or acting like, that machismo and everything like that,
Yeah, yeah.
like, trying to keep that up. And so, what was your experience in seeking support for that? And did you like have any difficulties with doing that at first? And like, how did you overcome that?
I guess for me, like it's one of those things like I had no choice. Like it was a brand new world, like educating myself on all the different avenues and from psychiatry to therapists and just like therapists that specialize in my diagnosis. Like I had to. Like it was a brand new world. Like I just think the ignorance is like that you think you could do it on your own. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't care how big, strong, and tough you are. You can't do all this by yourself. It's out of control to really think that. Like it's super ignorant to me.
Yeah, now I agree because like especially when you said that you had to, like I have similar sentiments too, where it's just like that suppression led me to, having to seek
Mhm.
mental health treatment. And I also love that you said that you realized that you couldn't do it on your own and that there's a certain level of support that you needed.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask, do you ever feel like you're not man enough if you struggle with mental health issues? And if you do, like, how do you manage that feeling?
Sometimes I'll be honest. I'll be honest with this. This is something I really don't talk about that much. At times I feel like, you know what? Maybe I just need to be quiet. Maybe I just need to keep this to myself. Maybe I need to work on this internally just so that I'm not always speaking about me and my struggles. And a lot of times recently, I probably do suppress a lot. And I'm not saying it's in a way that I'm not benefiting from other ways, but I kind of pick and choose where. If I'm speaking to X, Y, and Z, maybe I'll speak to A, B, and C this time. Like I really trying to be more cognizant of the different levels and different ways and different people that I could speak to because I don't want it to come off that way that oh, here we go, Ramirez again, or Mr. Ramirez or Andrew, whatever. I don't want to be viewed that way, but in the same token, it's not just people diagnosed like me, it's people in general need to speak. It's with or without a diagnosis.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. And especially when you said you're trying to be cognizant of like who you actually share with. And I think that's very important, especially when you're like seeking support, because you can't really tell every single person that you come across like all of your story. But there's a difference between being wise about how you share your story and keeping it all bottled up because you want to keep that perception around
Exactly.
other people. So yeah.
Exactly. Like you said, there's a big difference in that.
Yeah, most definitely. So I do want to share some statistics with you from this comes from Self Space, a mental health website, and it says 40% of men have never spoken to anyone about their mental health, and 29% of those men say that they are too embarrassed to speak about it, while 20% say that there is a negative stigma. So, in hearing those statistics, like what are your thoughts on them? And do any of them ring true for you?
Can you repeat the first one again? The very first
Yes.
stat?
So, 40% of men have never spoken to anyone about their mental health.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought that would be more like 55%. Yeah, I I could see that one. Out of all them, I think the other ones are more on par. I kind of like those numbers, but that one's a little surprising to me because I definitely think that that could be bigger. That's just my gut. I could definitely see that being a bigger number than what it really is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, does that like I know you said it surprised you that like only 40% of men have never spoken to anyone. Do you think that there's a reason that the number is not bigger? What are your thoughts on like the number being at 40 rather than like 55 or 60? Hello again. Before you dive into the rest of today's episode, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your support and for hitting that play button. If you want to expand on that support, here are three ways that you can do so. One, leave a review. If anything in today's episode resonated with you, or you want to share how the podcast changed your life, you can do so by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser. Two, check out our shop. The Rough Edges shop is a faith based, women of color owned online shop where you can get a variety of products from tote bags, journals, t shirts, crew necks, and more. 20% of the proceeds go to a mental health organization. So check it out at roughedgespodcast.com/shop. 3. Connect on social media. Rough Edges is on a variety of social media platforms, including Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and more. If you want to connect outside of listening to the podcast episodes, you can do so on those platforms. If you have any more questions or want more information on the ways that I've just discussed, you can check out the episode description or stay to the end for more information. Now, enjoy your episode.
Well, I guess that's a good thing. I guess if it is lower, right? I mean,
Right.
it's maybe when I was growing up, 25, 30 years ago, that they probably would be more the number that I was
Hmm.
suggesting, but hopefully that there are men out there that look, you can't do this by yourself. You got to reach out, you got to seek out, and whatever. There's more than just therapy. There's you got to do something. It doesn't
Yeah.
need to be that you're sitting in front of someone talking for 45, 50 minutes. You got to do something. You got to address your mental health somewhere.
Yeah, that's very true. I definitely agree. And if you could change like at least two stigmas, like about how society views men's mental health, what would you change and why?
That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I would say, I think we talked about it before. The tough man approach. That men that speak are soft, or it's I think I just see it as it being more reverse. If I kind of go back to I think about the men on my campus that we have real conversations. Whether us struggling or things that we think we could do better as men, or like we actually speak about stuff. That's why I vibe with a certain crowd. But all of them I've had serious conversations like this with. Maybe not so in depth, but we've had conversations, and I just feel like it just needs to be had. You don't need an army with you, but you need one or two or three other men. I feel anyone could benefit from.
Yeah, and have you seen like in the men that you speak with, have you seen like a difference in how they approach mental health topics after you guys have those talks? Like, have you gotten feedback too? What was it? What was it
I
like?
mean, yeah, like anyone else, like we all know that this person you go to for this and this person you go to that. I think it's the same way, regardless of gender. I don't think you know. Hey, I could go to him. I could talk at a deeper level with him. I could get really personal, but with him, maybe not so much.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean I still can't have a conversation. I think that goes for anyone, any topic, any gender, really.
Right. No, I definitely agree. And I love that, there is more openness when it comes to like men speaking up about their mental health because a lot of the times there is that stigmatization where it's like if men talk about their feelings, they're very emotional or, like it's only a women thing that, we talk about our mental health. But I really wanted to challenge just like the idea of help not only being for women, but it could be for men as well. And that men do need to speak about the things that they're going through because it's really important that they get the help?
No, definitely. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. And so, speaking of like approaches to encouraging people to get help, what do you think are some helpful ways that, women or other men can encourage men to speak out and seek help for their mental health?
Through conversations, I mean, the same way, I always go back to like I feel like, so many approaches that I take, regarding mental illness, diagnosis, mental health. I mean, you could translate that to so many different areas. And I think being a high school counselor really taught that to me. Certain things that I do on campus can translate to my home life, or the same way with, the same conversations you have regarding you personally, mental illness or not, you could have similar conversations. Like it doesn't always have to be about one particular thing.
Yeah, I just love what you said about having honest conversations because it's true. Like, if we start to create more safe spaces for people to actually share their experiences, and also, like you said, it doesn't have to be sharing it with like the entire world,
Hmm.
but it's sharing it with somebody that you trust and someone that's not going to judge you for, things that you feel and what you're going through.
Yeah. No, definitely. I agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. So, Andrew, I want to thank you so, so much for, you sharing your experiences and for, wanting to continue the conversation around men's mental health. And before we go, I have one last question for you. Advice or words of encouragement do you have for men who struggle to manage or seek help for their mental health?
Like just mentioned before about, I always talk about different people in your life should hit different topics or different pockets is what I say. You could go to certain people for certain things. You just got to find those people. I've tested people out. I'm like, let's see if I could talk about this with that person or that person. Like, who your people are. You just got to figure that out for yourself. So anyone feeling or any male thinking that they don't have anyone, sometimes you just got to take a chance. I think you'd be surprised who steps into your life that you may already know that could be a really good sounding board for you. But you just got to take that leap and test it out and be vulnerable. So I think that's what a good first step could be.
Yes, well, I love that. And thank you once again, Andrew. And where can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
So I'm only on Instagram, bipolar_real talk. Yeah, just come on to my page. I'm big with motivation and bipolar awareness and just being honest, being real, and just spreading that word.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm definitely going to put that in the episode description. And I hope that everyone has a great day and that you stay tuned for more empowering episodes on Rough Edges. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rough Edges podcast with Sarah I. Fox. If you want more updates on the podcast, you can follow on Instagram at rough.edges.podcast or you can visit the official podcast website at roughedgespodcast.com. Thanks again for listening and have a wonderful day.